Hello. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa, and I'm from the Singapore Academy of Law. So, thanks for having me here to speak at the IP Forum today. I've been asked to speak about smart city, information city in modern cities. And because I come from Singapore, so I will present this topic from a Singaporean perspective. Let me tell you a little bit about
У нас
Singapore.
уже синхронно началась, да, презентация. Да. Ну, давайте, хорошо.
Okay, let us start. Just wanted to introduce you first, but okay.
So let me tell you a little bit about Singapore. So we are very small, and we are known as the little red dot because, as you can see on the map, we are really a very small dot. We are nothing more than a red dot, right? So because we are so tiny and we have a very, very small domestic market, we need to innovate relentlessly to remain internationally competitive. So in the face of global forces of technological change and disruption, the Smart Nation Initiative, we launched the Smart Nation Initiative in 2014 to drive digital transformation across all sectors in Singapore. And in the area of big data, Singapore aims to become Asia's big data hub, providing jobs and data centers for the entire Pacific region. So what is big data? Big data refers to data sets whose size are beyond the ability of typical database software tools to capture, store, manage, and analyze. There is no explicit definition of how big a data set should be in order to be considered big data. But new technology has to be in place to extract value economically from very large volumes of a wide variety of data by enabling high-velocity capture, discovery, and analysis. Although the concept of big data itself is relatively new, the origins of large data sets go back to the 1960s and 70s, with the first data centers being built. So as you can see, around the 2000s, people began to realize just how much data users generated through Facebook, YouTube, and other online services. The development of open source frameworks also led to the growth of big data because they make big data easier to work with and easier to store. The emergence of machine learning has produced still more data. And while big data has come far, its usefulness is only just beginning. Cloud computing has expanded big data possibilities even further. Today, this is what happens in 1 minute, in 1 internet minute in 2019. So, data is the new currency in the brave new digital world. And it has been shown here that big data is big money. The Economist regards data to be as valuable as oil. A recent report by research firm IDC predicted that the big data and business analytics market would grow globally from US $130 billion in 2016 to US $203 billion by 2020. Data is a very valuable economic resource that enables Singapore to overcome our intrinsic limitations on land, human capital, and natural resources. As you can see from this slide, the Asia-Pac market will see the highest growth rate between 2016 and 2021. The value of regional big data and business analytics services is projected to reach $27 billion by 2022. And studies indicate that the data analytics industry contributes at least Singapore $1 billion each year to Singapore's economy. To attract companies looking to expand their big data operations in Asia, Singapore put in place the necessary infrastructure for digital connectivity. This enables a company to process data quickly and reliably. Internet speeds in Singapore are among the fastest in the world, rivaled only by Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. Sorry, I got a lot to say, so I had to type it all out. And Singapore also enjoys a significant internet penetration rate, where the number of mobile phone subscriptions outnumber the size of its total population by about 1.5 to 1, as you can see on the slide there. This has enabled telcos firms in Singapore to amass huge amounts of data that is truly big data, as they have millions of customers and hundreds of thousands of households that subscribe to services. This data includes profiles, preferences, and movement. And when correlated, they offer a tremendous amount of insight into behavior and trends. The three main telcos in Singapore are Singtel, StarHub, and M1. So from an individual's profile, commuting patterns, to what he or she is interested in based on online searches, telcos supply a huge amount of anonymized customer data to companies as well as government agencies. And in turn, the companies use the data to make big business decisions, such as where to set up new outlets or what kind of products and services to offer, and to who, while government agencies tap on the information to improve policies and services. Even though identities are scrubbed out and anonymized, the info that telcos can sell to other private or public organizations is extremely valuable, given the insights that can be gleaned from correlating the different data sets. And all three telcos in Singapore, Singtel, StarHub, and M1, provide data analytics services to businesses. Apart from cellular and Wi-Fi networks, data is also collected by the government itself in different ways. As an example, the current electronic road pricing system in Singapore, or the ERP, automatically deducts a toll whenever a vehicle passes under a gantry. This will soon be replaced by this next generation ERP system, which uses satellite positioning technology to pinpoint the exact location of a vehicle, find out its distance traveled along a road, and charge users according to that. This can help to improve road traffic by charging drivers more money for using congested roads. In the healthcare area, it will soon become compulsory for healthcare providers to enter patient information into the National Electronic Health Record, or NEHR. And we also have a pilot program to install surveillance cameras on Singapore's lampposts. Such cameras are linked to facial recognition software and collect a huge amount of information from traffic data to weather conditions. If fully implemented, this would potentially enable the government to track any person anywhere in Singapore within range of one of Singapore's 100,000 lampposts. All these schemes are part of Singapore's national push to get smart and to shift people's lives onto technological platforms. Big data brings the potential to transform the work of government agencies, enabling them to extract insights, keep track of citizens' specific needs, and contribute to better urban planning and public services. So for instance, cellular data has also been used to track the number of people on the platforms of our MRT or train stations, and the flow of people transferring between different lines at MRT interchanges. The data could then be used to calculate train frequency to minimize waiting times during peak hours. Many organizations are also seeing big data as an important area for their businesses. And these are some of the commercial use cases. In healthcare, Fullerton Healthcare tracks millions of transactions at public hospitals daily. And healthcare tech startup RingMD collects medical data to improve services for patients. For example, it's currently using big data to improve the way its chatbot interacts with patients. It makes the chatbot smarter to provide instant personalized medical information. Singapore banks also use big data analytics to streamline their operations, for example, to boost recruitment, staff productivity, and for training programs. And in the legal sector, big data has been used to mine court decisions and offer solutions on risk assessments and strategy development. So in Singapore, we have this legal tech startup Rigel, which got into the finals of the Global Legal Hackathon last year, and they developed an AI-based software solution to manage multiple references in documents to streamline documentation for law firms. They are also working to mine Singapore court decisions and offer AI solutions. So I'm going to show you a video which sums up the state of big data analytics in Singapore.
So what is data analytics? It's an investigative tool that we use to solve problems. So you start off by collecting data, and then you use data analytics techniques to look through the data to find patterns. And from these patterns, you can get insights which you can then use to solve problems. Government agencies receive millions of emails in a given year. It's impossible to read through everything to figure out what people were writing in about. So we use text analytics to analyze 100,000 emails together with HDB. We found a topic on key collection, and people were writing in to ask that they change the times that they picked up their keys. HDB recognized this insight from the analysis, and they acted on it, and therefore they moved to an online system for key collection.
Our proprietary data analytics platform draws data from statistical algorithms and existing data pools. We're able to pull insights and forecast trends to determine, develop, and refine the optimal merchandise range that would match consumers' demands and sales trends. By optimizing titles and keywords when listing products, we can ensure optimal search ranking for the brand's products. Our data analytics is absolutely key to us sourcing the right products and determining the right price and volume to sell.
Okay, so that's that. And now we go on to protection of big data and its solutions. So with nationwide digitization, placing so much information online makes data very vulnerable to being stolen, and making data more accessible also means it's more easily misused. In June last year, Singapore suffered its worst ever cyber attack, where hackers broke into our national health IT systems to steal the data of 1.5 million patients, including medical records of Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. In another incident, the medical records of 14,200 HIV-positive people were illegally disclosed online. And in a third case, the personal information of more than 800,000 blood donors were put improperly online for over 2 months and accessed illegally. So as the public and private sectors collect huge amounts of personal data for IoT devices, AI and analytics, it is necessary to put in place robust cybersecurity laws to govern cybersecurity privacy and the misuse of data. In Singapore, we have the Personal Data Protection Act, the Computer Misuse Act, and the Cybersecurity Act. And public agencies are also governed by the Public Sector Governance Act. Ownership and privacy are the key considerations when it comes to legal and regulatory issues surrounding big data. Some data is proprietary, and that means it's protected from copying by others without consent of the data owner. Many organizations monetize their proprietary databases in this way. The Personal Data Protection Act was established in 2013 to administer and enforce the Personal Data Protection Act 2012 and serves as Singapore's main authority in matters relating to personal data protection. PDPC formulates and implements policies relating to the protection of personal data and issues advisory guidelines and regulations to help organizations as well as individuals understand and comply with the PDPA. So here, there are 9 main obligations of the PDPA governing the collection, use, and disclosure. And the PDPA aims to enhance Singapore's competitive advantage as a location for data hosting and management activities by strengthening Singapore's reputation as a secure location for data and giving assurance to businesses looking for safeguards to protect sensitive data sets. So the law will also put in place safeguards to protect data sets, which will help facilitate the smooth transfer of data to and from jurisdictions that have enacted data protection laws. These safeguards serve as an attractive draw for cloud computing and business analytics activities to be located in Singapore. The PDPC developed the Data Protection Trust Mark certification to help organizations verify their conformance to a personal data protection standard and best practices. And this trust mark will be a visible indicator that an organization adopts sound data protection practices. With a growing volume of data, organizations need to act now to keep up with the demands of big data and to combat the challenges that come with it. And data governance is more relevant than ever. So I also have a video from the Personal Data Protection Commission.
Did you know 2 in 3 consumers say they would rather buy from a brand that is certified to protect their personal data? 4 in 5 companies also prefer to work with partners that properly manage personal data. You can offer this assurance with a Data Protection Trust Mark, which means that your company has good practices to protect your customers' personal data. The certification assessment will help you identify gaps, improve processes, and respond swiftly to data breaches. This effort pays off. By investing in your customers' data protection, your brand value grows, and you stand out as a trusted business. Not just locally, but globally, as the certification framework aligns to international benchmarks, helping you assure customers everywhere so they feel safe transacting with your brand. Trust is now certified. Apply today.
Right. So this is the Data Protection Certification Trust Mark. Okay, so for tech companies that develop solutions that harness big data technologies, nothing is more valuable than their IP. And in Asia, there are many stories of opportunistic firms ripping off or copying another company's tech innovations to make a quick profit. Singapore's IP laws we ensure that they are tough and well enforced, and Singapore's government is committed to a strong IP regulatory framework that gives companies confidence that their R&D investments will stay protected. So in 2013, the government released the IP Hub Master Plan to leverage Singapore's key strengths and guide our development as a global IP hub in Asia. And this map sums up the IP Hub Master Plan, which is available free online. It's a framework to facilitate and promote innovation, protect patents, and allow the effective resolution of IP disputes. So as you can see, there are dedicated courts in Singapore which will hear IP cases, and we have strong R&D IP capabilities. And we've also trained and put in place a very strong patent team to help assist investors with their R&D innovations. So it's envisaged that Singapore will strengthen our position as a hub for IP transactions and management, quality IP filings, and IP dispute resolution. So far, Singapore is leading the pack as Southeast Asia's big data hub. This can be seen by the fact that we are host to high-impact projects like Facebook's $1 billion data center, Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba's first joint research institute outside of China. Google will be building a third data center in Singapore to meet rapid user growth in the region. And companies like Amazon and IBM are using Singapore to pilot groundbreaking new projects before they roll them out globally. So the IPOS, or the Intellectual Property Office of Singapore, clinched number 2 spot for being the most innovative IP office in the world. And this is according to the World Trademark Review, the global leading trade publication on trademark issues. So as you can see, to achieve our Smart Nation vision, the government had to enhance Singapore's cybersecurity and data protection framework and ensure that innovation is encouraged with strong IP laws. Although Singapore has made much progress in innovation, we are still very much on the learning curve. And it's important for us to regularly come together at occasions such as this to share our experiences and to learn from others and like-minded jurisdictions and thought leaders. So with this, I thank you and I wish you all a fruitful day ahead, and may this forum provide all of you fresh insights on your innovation journey. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Thank you so much. We started quite unexpectedly, but I'm glad that we started, and we started at a very good note. This presentation is a presentation of a perfect city, I think. Of course, everything can change. Maybe another city will be leading the pack, will be more smart of a city, will be protecting people's privacy even more than Singapore. That may happen. Maybe not, but at this point, Singapore is the best. And we all should do our best to be like Singapore. I'd like to thank our foreign guest, Melissa, for coming here and telling us about the experience of Singapore. That is a very good starting point for our session today, and we will be discussing smart cities, security, and information. So let's start. We are here to talk about information security in modern city, which involves a number of issues. We need to make the living standards higher. We need to make life in the cities better, safer. We need to protect information, all the information collected in cities. And in continuation of the topic raised by our guest, I would like to ask Kay Mitali, Ampersand FM Executive Director, the following question. What are the criteria which a city should meet in order to be called smart? Of course, any city can be called smart, but there is that line that separates smart cities, the truly smart cities, from all others. There is Singapore, Vancouver, Barcelona, other cities which are really smart cities. And some people think that it's impossible to have a smart city in Russia. Well, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Sochi, maybe Kaliningrad, there are a lot of doubt. Some say, well, it's impossible to have all cities smart. You cannot turn any city into a smart city. Like when it comes to the northern territories, it's impossible to have a smart city in the north, but it's easy to have such a city in the south. So what are the criteria? Tell us. First and foremost, I would like to thank our colleague. I really enjoyed this presentation about Singapore. Thank you so much. As for your question, here's what I have to tell you. A smart city is a comfortable city. That's the purpose of making a city smart. High technologies are meant to make the life of people better, easier, to alleviate the problems, to make the living better for people so that they will enjoy their life in cities. It's impossible to say that small city is easily converted into a smart city and a bigger one find it difficulty in such a transformation. No, it's not about the size. I can say that we are lucky. Russia is lucky because we already see a lot of foreign experience. And our agency, the agency I represent, we are engaged in the field which cuts across informational technologies, marketing, design, and human behavior research. Because we want to give people comfort so that they will be comfortable. We have a number of projects in the works. I think some people here from Moscow, raise your hands if you're from Moscow. There is a bike sharing service in Moscow, probably you know about it. It's called VeloBike. It's one of the key projects we work on currently. This year we will be launching another project. It's called Smart City of Moscow. Maybe you heard about it.
We worked on this project for VTB Bank. And it is very important, actually, who is the client, because we were working with big data, and big data should be collected, and it should belong to someone. A company should have capacity to collect big data. So to answer your question, it's not about the size of a city. It's about the size of companies who operate in the city and who big data can belong to. That's the first point. Well, I will go now through my slides. There are some key points on them, but I want you to hear what I have to say. The scale of the city depends on companies who can afford to collect and analyze big data. But technical bits of information in big data are not enough. Why? Because normally big data has what we call people footprints. For example, what are the footprints that interest a bank? Transactions that a client makes. What does the client buy for what prices? And all of this information leaves a footprint and creates a virtual avatar of a person. It is a digitalized portrait of a person. And that is what big data is about, well, to put simply. And the rights to use this data belong to companies who commission such projects. Because people, they give their consent to for banks to process their data, or for other companies. They have, to tick the box. When you pay for something, when you carry out a transaction, of course, you verify your consent. But what else do we need to offer our clients for them to give us a permission to use his or her data as a part of big data? Do you understand what I'm talking about here? And this is what we are doing. We are researching what we can offer our clients to make them share their data with us. And these are smart projects. It is not about activities that people consent to when they sign confidentiality agreements, but what sort of offers should we make to make our client communicate with us through big data? What kind of projects might compel our clients to share their data with us? What kind of additional resources, what kind of additional communication do we need? How do we understand what we can offer our clients to make their lives more comfortable and to make them share their data with us at the same time? These are what smart projects are all about. So when we try to figure out what this project should be, we realize that we all commute. We all commute to work, we all order taxis, we use public transport, we're all educated people. We go to theaters, to movies. We need to learn something new. And that is why everything that is related to culture is very promising. We are also very much invested in what happens in our city. And of course, we buy food, we buy coffee, so we carry out a lot of transactions. And of course, there are a lot of regular payments that we do. So for us, smart projects are those projects that aggregate all of the services that are so much needed by the clients, by also additional services that are emotionally important for our clients. So sometimes it is not a convenience of carrying out this is it or that transaction, but an opportunity to buy, I don't know, bread remotely. So that is where we find smart solutions with hyperdata. But we should, of course, support it with additional surveys. So that is a question that companies and cities should answer. Those companies and cities who strive to become smart. Smart city initiatives are very important today. And today brands, of course, they want to come up with projects that help their clients to do the thinking and to be more intuitive, to be more understandable. And at some point, our clients can say, yes, I see that progress is beneficial for me. I feel that you, as companies, care for me. Or the reaction can be totally different, and the clients might object to their data being used. And so we should find this balance where we create an environment for our clients and integrate everything that surrounds them. I've been working in this field for 8 years now with various groups of people. I worked with coders, with technical experts who say, we have big data, we use it in a such and such manner. And I said to them, okay, guys, that is not enough. We should use marketing more. We should listen to people more. And so big data projects, smart projects are like chameleons that get integrated into the lives of people, because projects that use more predatory practices, that try to impose services on you, they are perceived in a totally different fashion, and people do not relate to them. They do not want to use them. And if cities today can understand that big data is a tool, but it should be adjusted, it should be adopted, and you should always consider the human factor. You should study the behavioral patterns and couple it with big data. Then you will have your smart projects and smart cities that will be successful because people will understand why these projects are here in the first place. But how do you stay on this edge? How do you not walk off the cliff? And how do you prevent information from controlling people? It is nice when you make your client's life better, but at the same time, you should make sure that the services do not control people, because people do not like to feel they're controlled when there are some services that control their emotions, that try to compel them to do something. Because these technologies are implemented today, not as some sort of comprehensive solution, but still, step by step, separately, these technologies are employed by various social networks and various services. So how do we refrain from doing that? I will answer your question. Finally, I seem to have time to speak about it in greater detail. I will now ask you to show the clip that I brought with me. Big data for smart cities, smart interface with numerous functions. You can pay for everything you need thanks to a special sanction in an app. Now it is faster than ever. Stay tuned. Choose, book, visit. You are ready for something even greater? Meet the Smart District, new technology for the city. All important aspects of your district in one app. A dashboard in your app. A smart chart for residents. Everything within the reach. You have everything you need here. You can pay for school meals of your children. You can read news from the city office. You will learn it all first. Everything is thought through, every detail, every aspect of this application. All of Moscow in one unique service. Learn more about the opportunities of the system My Smart City. Open the new VTB Bank app. Nicely done, very nicely done. I needed to show it to you, and if you were attentive enough, you paid attention to the fact that this video is an answer to your question. That is a vision that I would like to share with you. A product should combine all of the features that people are eager to use. And your client should understand that they consent to using this app because it is comfortable. Some people say that the freedom of one person ends where the freedom of another person starts. So for me, successful projects, they tackle some very pressing issues, but at the same time that do not deprive people of their freedom. And I'm sure that it is sometimes very hard to understand what kind of functions can help people to manage their day-to-day issues without controlling them. We cannot do that without big data. I am all for it. I am all for using big data for that. So projects that consider people, for me, they are smart projects. If we speak about Moscow, it is a huge city. Can you actually cover the whole population with what we just saw with your project for the VTB bank. First of all, these are young people who use it because they know how to use technologies. But the city is big, and we have a lot of people that went through several technological revolutions, and some people are left behind, unfortunately. And I cannot imagine senior people, elderly people, using this app and using all of the opportunities of the smart city. I cannot imagine this, but I would like to involve these people in this process.
услуги доступны.
So how could you make these services accessible to as many people as possible? What are the obstacles on the way of doing that? Well, you see the application which we are working on. And on a side note, I always support the elderly. My parents, they are people with special needs. So most of my life, I've been engaged in many social projects aimed at helping the senior people who have certain disabilities, some certain special needs. And all my life, I personally was doing my best to make the life of my parents more comfortable. And this application we're working on, it aggregates various services, smart electric devices, smart equipment, smart utilities recording devices. They just record all the electricity usage and water usage and automatically send it to the utilities agency and pay automatically for it from your card. You don't need to do it on your own. Our research and our tests show that people above 40, those who are 50, 55, they found it very comfortable to use the digital version of Moscow.ru portal, and this application in the test mode was also very friendly for them. So people who are 50, 55 years of age, they have no problems in using it because it's one button, one click. You just access the application and it gives you all the information you need. We had a number of focus groups, and I always attend focus groups. People who are 50, 55 years of age, they have absolutely no problems with this application. I'm not going to lie to you. At first, sometimes it is difficult. You mean to explain how to use application or how to finance, how to attract investments? No, I mean it's difficult to explain people why they need this application. That is difficult. But when you explain them why they need it, after that people are enthusiastic about it. Because these systems, they help you, they care about you, and they adapt to your behavior, which is also very good, I think. And I gave the test version of this application to my mother. We will be releasing it officially very soon, but the test version, I gave it to my mother, and she bought tickets to theater via this application. That's a success, I think. Yeah, that's good, yes. I have other questions too, but you see, the idea is that we need to couple the technological progress with our desire to help people. Big data, IT specialists, new innovations, and new services like Google Pay. These are just the puzzles which should fit into one big picture. And that picture is making the life more comfortable for people. That should be our ultimate goal, to make life more comfortable. Yes, that is very good, but this is a bit idealistic. But I hope we will be moving on this track. I do wish you success. You're doing a very good job. Alena Maximenko, I would like to invite you to participate in our dialogue, Executive Director of Ali Tech. I would like to ask you about security. Security is coming to the forefront these days because cyber attacks are a real danger. Should we really trust smart systems? Because we gave a lot of information to these applications and everything, but Are we protected? Are we safe? Can we hope that our data is not used to do something bad? And there is something I can share with you. During the previous section, the group IB, a huge company which are engaged in the field of cybersecurity, they discussed this. And Ilya Sachkov, one of the leaders of that company, said that, well, we should be afraid because your banking account can be accessed easily. It's no problem for a real hacker to get to your money, to your credit card. And that is why I have a number of issues. Yes, of course, you can be robbed in the middle of the street if you're walking home too late, but still, cybersecurity is something else. I'm Director General of Confidential Information, so you know a lot about cybersecurity. Yes, I do. And I manage the Allen Tech program. That is a smart bus stop. It will be commissioned tomorrow in Kaliningrad, and the feed will be available here, so we'll be streaming it all live. Cybersecurity is very important, and I will give you an example of how we tackle this issue. We have installed 4 cameras onto this bus stop because vandalism is a problem, in Kaliningrad especially. So we, some time ago, installed glass-walled bus stops, and very many bus stops were vandalized. All the glass walls were broken, were shattered. I don't know why, but that's vandalism, and it's a problem in Kaliningrad. This smart bus stop, which will be commissioned tomorrow, we invited mass media to cover the whole process of installing it. What we have now is that bus stop, 4 cameras on it, and the people now, they've been informed about this new smart bus stop, and they know they want to have a comfortable environment to live in. When you go to a bus stop and all around you see glass broken, that's not safe, especially for children. So we installed 4 cameras, and Rostelecom helped us with that. They provided the equipment. And with the help of these 4 cameras, we'll be showing to the people of Kaliningrad that we can ensure security. People told us, you'll just install cameras and nothing will happen. Well, we placed cameras all over that bus stop. We also were offered to install the face recognition system. Rostelecom offered us that system. Well, tomorrow we'll discuss. Maybe it will be installed, maybe not. But at this point, we're just commissioning the bus stop, that smart bus stop. We ensure the security by providing the population with safe hardware, let me put it this way, with safe bus stops and everything. Infrastructure should be safe for people, but it's not ready to be digitalized at this point. Many doubted the whole idea of installing cameras in our city. And maybe some of us will talk about this later. For example, I know that there is a project of installing the emergency buttons, which people can press in the event of emergency to call the emergency services immediately. On the 4th of March, the Ministry of Construction delivered a report on smart city development. The city of Gusev and the city Kaliningrad, they were enlisted as pilot cities for smart city development. So we've been acknowledged as a place where it is easy to implement smart projects. We have very good infrastructure, a lot of high-tech solutions already been applied. So smart platforms and security, that is good, but for that we need smart infrastructure too. Let's take that bus stop. It can be smart only if you prepare it to be smart. We don't have any metal. We constructed that bus stop out of polymers. So you don't need to paint it in 10 years. It was not going to rust in 20 years. It's safe, it's cheap, it's reliable, it can be easily digitalized. The city will not need to spend any additional resources to then scrap that bus stop and install new, because it is made of polymers. It's very simple to put it down or to modify it. You can install that smart emergency button, then cameras and everything, and it will be a smart stop already. It will help you with safety, security, everything. And we'll be collecting feedback from the population, of course, asking them whether this bus stop is good or not. Maybe people will not feel comfortable because they'll be watched through cameras. I don't know. We will ask them. Feedback will define whether we will install more bus stops like that or less. Okay, this is important, I think, because I have a story. I don't remember the city where it happened. Moscow, maybe not Moscow, I don't know. In one of the buildings, residential building, people decided to install a camera. They said, these people, I'll install this camera to ensure your security. Others people who did not want it said, no, we don't want to be filmed all the time. And that person, these people who installed that camera, they realized that they need to pass a lot of procedures to have that. Some people approved of that, of installing that camera. Some said that they strongly disagree. I think that our society sometimes is not ready to embrace new solutions, new technologies. As for that bus stop, I think it's going to be okay. People will love it. But still, I will be eager to see the feedback. You can come tomorrow and visit the commissioning ceremony. I will be in Moscow already. But I'm intrigued, so I'll be watching this closely. I'll watch it live on the internet. And we also have air quality monitoring stations and air purification stations. Could you tell us about that? Yes. With one of the Skolkovo Foundation residents, we installed several purification stations. Last year, we visited the startup village in Moscow. We were looking through the options in terms of smart sensors for air control. We first thought to buy Korean sensors, but after a day or two, we found the Tian company, and they had a 7-kilogram box. It was a station which monitors gas, dust, other particles. It just monitors it all 24/7 and gives you the data in real time. In real time? Yes, in real time. We have 2 stations installed, one inside that smart bus stop, which will be commissioned tomorrow, one outside of it. And the place outside is important because it's very polluted. I have asthma. When the air is very dirty, I start to have certain problems with breathing. You understand that, I think. Take India. I know that a startup today in Russia works that came from India. He wanted to start in India, but in India people did not get the idea of air purification. And that startup, it has its own unique system of air purification, air monitoring. And by the way, that startup, it won 1 million rubles as the best startup in his sector. So after a couple of experiments, we found out that this wonderful startup did not work here in Kaliningrad. And that is why we went to Moscow and found that Tian company. They been around for years producing air monitoring and air purification systems. And they said, okay, we are ready. We are eager to install our purification stations at your bus stop. We wanted to do that in Moscow, but no one gave us the permission, so we are ready to cooperate. And we were ready to cooperate too. I don't know how useful that will be for Russia, but it's good to test the prototype for 1 year to know whether this project is possible, whether this project can be scaled up. It's very good for people with asthma, for the senior people, because they really appreciate the quality of air. I hope your experiment will be a success. I think it has a lot of potential. Yes, I know that a delegation from India will be coming here to Kaliningrad to see how this bus stop will be working. And we even participated in a TV show in which we participated to get a grant. Unfortunately, the TV show did not take off. Have you learned anything from Singapore? Yes, we studied the experience of Singapore. We also studied the South Korean experience. In South Korea, they have very good air sensors. But as for air purification, well, Hong Kong, they are one of the leaders. I know a company from Hong Kong, but this company has a solution, but that solution is very expensive. And you have to change filters very often. As for this company we work with here in Kaliningrad, that Tian company say they have a number of patents, and they don't need to change filters as often as their competitors say they need to. And the price is quite modest. Okay, that is very interesting. I will watch closely your project. Thank you. You wanted to add something, right?
I wanted to thank you for such an idea, and I can tell you that apart from these IT solutions for cities, we also do territory marketing and city imaging, city marketing. If we find a solution using IT tools, we do that, but we also do branding. And next week, me and my colleague will go to the city of Lipetsk, and we will work there. We worked with Khimki, a suburban territory near Moscow, and Lipetsk is on the way. And one of the issues that this city faces is environmental protection. For them, it is an especially pressing issue. People who live there, the majority of them work at factories. There is this huge metallurgic plant there. And I would like to ask you for a permission to suggest they pay attention to this project, because I believe it could tackle some of their issues. And I think that would be a wonderful solution. And we would be happy to propose such bus stops to the city of Lipetsk. Thank you very much. But I can stress the following. Before we offer something to somebody, we should make sure that it works. We will be testing this bus stop for a year, and we are not ready to assume the responsibility and to offer this project to other cities now. We have to test it out. It took us 1 year to build the prototype, to look for reliable partners, and it proved to be quite a difficult task to find partners. We use some unique technologies, and we have a city map. We even installed some heating units, so you can wait at this bus stop and you won't get cold, and you can even charge your mobile device. So it will be quite efficient and quite cheap. So as you can see, colleagues, so many interesting cases with so many details, and they're all so interesting. You know, some people believe that Russia is not an energy-sufficient country, it is not a technological country, but if you really look into it, you understand that it is not black and white. There is this enormous potential. Melissa, looking back at Singapore's experience, what kind of obstacles did you face? Was the population ready to accept the technologies that were offered? Because they might have had some problems, and probably some of them do not like CCTV being watched. We know that Singapore has some very strict laws, but still probably you had some feedback from the population. So what obstacles that you face, what do you think we should pay attention to? Would you please take the mic? We cannot hear you properly.
That it is a recognized concern that as individuals, we do not want personal information, our photos, our address, where we live, what we do, where we work, to be used and in a way that we do not agree to, and we don't want that. So I think that this is also recognized by the government, which is why when they formulated the Personal Data Protection Act, it is also with a view to protecting every man in the street, and there are campaigns to inform them that whatever you do, every photo that is placed by a company, that a photo that's taken of you in a public function cannot be used commercially unless you agree to it. And the framework is set out in the Personal Data Protection Act. So a company who wishes to take your photos and put it in for marketing purpose and place it in a publicity brochure will have to seek your consent. And as with any of your personal data, when they use your information, there is a consent obligation. And apart from that, so even if you agree to have your photograph or your personal data used for a particular purpose, the consent has to extend to all the purposes that the company wants to use your personal data for. So apart from the consent to using, an individual will also have to consent for the purpose for which your personal data is collected and used, and you have to agree under what circumstances it can be used.
Да, спасибо. Я хотел...
Thank you very much. I would like to ask Alexander Kazakov to join us. He is Director General of Rotec Company. Alona has already spoken about this emergency button initiative. So, when we speak about new technological solutions for our cities, we see that they seem like a minor changes to the city, but they actually make a difference. And sometimes smart cities is not about some trendy interfaces. Sometimes changes are even left unnoticed. What we talk about when we talk about smart cities are things that sometimes are not noticed by the vast majority of the population. And all of these changes are concealed, but these changes that help us to reduce the cost. We now need to spend more effort and more time trying to reduce the costs in our lives of our cities. And the more our people have of free time, the more smart the city is. I wanted to speak about a different project of ours, which is very promising. We took part in designing digital control monitoring system. It is a rather major initiative. We designed a number of sensors to collect information about residential buildings. We had vibration sensors, noise sensors, moisture sensors, and crack width sensors. So before that, it took a lot of time to collect such data. You'll understand that when a house gets dilapidated, there are cracks in the walls, the process is rather slow. And there are offline methods, offline technologies to control it. We designed sensors to control it in the people's stead. And they would calculate information once every 30 seconds. That gave us an opportunity to understand what is the reason why the house gets dilapidated. For example, we place sensors on various floors, vibration sensors. And to the best of our knowledge, the building vibrations should be homogeneous throughout the building. But it was not the case. For example, you have a road near a residential building, and if the traffic is too busy, that will affect the soil, and that in its turn will affect the building, especially its first floors. And thanks to the sensors, we collected all of this data. For example, at some point we were able to realize that some of the smaller road infrastructure affected a residential building. So, thanks to the sensors, we tracked the source of the problem. We also were able, thanks to our sensors, to measure the width of cracks in the walls. And our sensors were very precise. And for the relevant authorities to pay attention to the fact, they needed the crack to be wider than 1 millimeter, and they had to appoint a commission to address this issue. But as soon as the commission is appointed, we were ready to arm them with all sorts of data about the reason why there was a crack in the wall, what affected the wall, and that will, in long-term perspective, help us to make residential buildings serve for longer periods of time, because it will cost you several million rubles to move people to the new residential building from this dilapidated housing. And sometimes, thanks to those sensors, we can prevent further deterioration of building condition. Now speaking about data security.
We are a young company. We thought, okay, this data should be open. We can protect data through making it absolutely open. There will be no way to manipulate data if this data is openly available. No one will need to steal it or anything. And what about people? They could see the data on themselves and understand what is happening to their building on their own, yes, they could understand that the building had cracks and it was experiencing small changes in the width of these cracks. And it was perfectly fine. It's physics. Like when it's warmer, these cracks are getting smaller. When it's colder, these cracks are growing. But the residents of that building, they started to file a lot of complaints to every agency related to the operation of that building. And they came, those people who were in charge of servicing the city, they came and said, it's full fine. It's way below the limit. And the residents said, but there is a crack, it's growing, we see it, we have the data to prove it. And they were disappointed that nothing was done. But still, in some places, that worked. Our systems helped to prevent major accidents. Because for people, their house is the only place where they can live. And sometimes the buildings are quite old, decades old, and if we prevent a catastrophe, an accident, that saves lives. So for people, it is good to see the changes, but they do not understand these changes. They overreact because you need to have special competencies to understand that small cracks is not a problem. Yes, and people can always say you installed these sensors and that is why we have cracks. Yes, in one of the places, that's exactly what happened. A telecom company complained about us. They installed their equipment, big and heavy, and it caused cracks. And it caused a lot of disappointment on the part of the residents. Our sensors are very compact. They are very small. They are not heavy at all. So they have no effect on the walls or anything. But the people, they came up and said, no, do not install it here. The telecom company installed their telecom boxes, and we have a lot of cracks now. So I don't give you the permission to install your sensor. Luckily, we achieved a huge headway in making people understand that we meant only good. We thought that people would be, I don't know, stealing sensors, vandalizing them, because they are hanging quite low and anyone can take them. And people in Russia very much preoccupied with all the companies which come to their buildings and install things, because sometimes these installations, they don't meet the requirements and cause a lot of stress in terms of the cracks and everything. So we almost never had any problems with that. People always met us with, well, very good attitude. None of the sensors were stolen, even though it's quite easy to take them out. So we saw that when you explain things to people, people respond kindly to you. We explained, yes, we are monitoring the status of your building for you because we care. And people said, okay, we thank you for that. So we understand that we need to explain people what we are doing. But we should not give them the data, because people don't understand the data and they overreact. They become scared, they panic because of some cracks or some minor changes in the status of the building. And is it more difficult to explain these things to people who live in that building or to people who are responsible for maintaining the building? I mean, the authorities. That is interesting, very interesting. The Ministry for the Regulatory Control and Enforcement of Kaliningrad was one of the co-authors of this project. And Kaliningrad is one of the few cities which have that Ministry for Regulation and Enforcement in the field of housing. We met with a number of utilities companies, and they were interested in our project. They said, okay, that's interesting because it can help us to maintain buildings. And that project was very appealing to these utilities companies because it could help them show the people that the utilities companies are not responsible for all the problems which happen to a building. For example, the Capital Housing Foundation is responsible for refurbishment and maintaining everything in perfect state. So it's their competence. So the utilities company is responsible for maintaining water and gas and electricity supply and waste collection, and some other company is responsible for cleaning the territory. You see, and over the trial period of our project, almost no company complained. And we still let the sensors stay because we don't want to take them away and make people worried that no one cares about them. That's a good story. Thank you. I thought it of a joke, but now I don't think to say anything bad. But still, during one of the conferences, I don't remember the name of that conference, some company presented an innovation in the field of agriculture, and they said, we can help weak cows to stand up and, well, be cowed in comfort. We thought, whoa, that's odd. Why would you need smart casings for cows? Why would you need to do anything smart for cows if they are okay? But now that I know about your project, I realize that maybe it's a good idea to monitor even some little parameters to make even some small things smart. Because new technologies, they pop up everywhere, and you do not know what projects will take off and become successful. You want to integrate your technology. That is good because it will help people to be more familiar with new technologies and be more comfortable with new technologies and new data. And it's very good that you present data in such a friendly manner to people. Probably that's about the time we should end our presentation. But before we complete this session, let me ask you, what is your vision of a future smart city? Like in the year 2030, for example, what smart cities will live in? And I would like to ask Melissa, because Singapore is the wonderful example for us. And maybe we will be like Singapore in 2030. I don't know. So let me ask you first. So what we will see in 10 years? You should ask children. Ask children about smart cities. I will come home and ask my kids about a smart city of the future. No, you can ask people here to answer this question. I will give you some background on why I'm not answering this question. We have a tech park for children. We teach them technological competences. And we ask them what technologies will be useful in the future. We ask children about that. And children, they have a different, vision, different understanding of the concept of a smart city. Like they started saying, okay, we need to design toys for parrots, because, well, parrots, they don't have any hobbies or anything. That's what children did, really. They started doing such simple things which no one thought of. And when it comes to smart cities, they can also give you some really wonderful insight. As for smart cities, as adults see them, well, I think we should not go into any fantasies. We should be realistic. First, energy efficiency. Second, comfortable infrastructure. These are the important things. And these guys, these children I talked about, they think that the infrastructure of the future should involve charging stations for drones. That is clever, right? That is smart. I myself, I never thought of a smart city of the future. Well, frankly speaking, I never thought about that. I don't know what kind of an ideal city I would like to live in. I grew up in a small village. We had toilet outside of the house, and our school was a wooden building. So for me, a city of the future is a warm city, a safe city. For others, it may be something else. I understand that. People from India have their own vision of a future city. They came up with this idea of purifying air around bus stops. Many laughed at this idea, but now Rostelecom and Baltic Federal University and other companies, they came to the realization that this is a good way to introduce new technologies into infrastructure. That is why they started working on this project. Then we also asked these little children about roads and how can we perfect roads. We said, well, we should monitor the status of roads, whether they feel fine. And we came up with the idea of installing sensors in the road surface to analyze how many cracks appear after winter and everything. We have a number of partners now to finally came up with a real solution of a widespread inclusion of sensors in the road surface. Now we're thinking, well, maybe these sensors can be coordinated in a way with the street lights and traffic lights. And yes, one of the projects we have is smart city lighting. We have an expert who's been working in that field for many years. He came to us and suggested an idea which is very good, but very complicated to be implemented here. So he came up with an idea of an automated city lighting, which works with the help of the sun energy, solar energy. Now we want to build a prototype here in Kaliningrad to test this idea. Maybe it will work here. That person, that expert, he is worried because Kaliningrad is not that sunny. And he's afraid that some people may steal the idea. But, well, that is why we have intellectual property protection regulations in place, right? So, only after we make the infrastructure comfortable and safe, only after that, we may say that the city of the future will be like that or like this. So let's just wait and see what the projects we have today prove to give us. And after that, we will know what kind of city we'll be living in 2030. Let's ask children, because cities of the future will be the cities where our children will be living in. So we should ask our children what they would like to see. Thank you for your opinion. Now, Alexander, you. For me, it is difficult to talk about that concept of smart cities of the future. Like, how distant in the future? I think that the current concepts are quite ugly. And the cities we have today, they're ugly. We waste a lot of resources, a lot of water and energy, gas. Waste management is also very bad. And I think that there are two technologies which will help us to transform our world, to change our cities. First, resource monitoring. It can be in any form, like you will be monitoring in real time the use of electricity and water, then you will be installing some smart energy generators, and this way save a lot of energy and water, and this will give you a pool of resources that will be available to be used for doing something else. Like one city can help another city with some certain kind of resource, give electricity and receive water in return. So it will be not a city, it will be like a spaceship, which will be calculating, monitoring in real time, and sharing data with other cities, like ships share data. That's true, yes. I think that is possible. But it's difficult to talk about the cost recovery because you see, it takes time to recover your costs, your investments when you start a project. It can take 2 or 3 years, but if you want to build a smart city, I don't know how much time you'll be waiting for your returns on investments, like decades probably. The second technology which is going to disrupt the cities, autonomous cars. If a car is automated enough, then, well, at least I hope so, it will make it possible for us to have perfect car sharing. We will not need personal individual cars. We will not need individual parking lots. We'll have car sharing. We'll have a lot of free space thanks to that. And the cities, well, probably we'll have to rebuild our cities because of autonomous cars. But autonomous cars is a compromise between the speed of getting there and your personal space.
Big data.
So if we couple it with big data, these smart cars will be able to pick you up where you need them to pick you up and get you to your destination. And we will have more space for residents, for people who live in the city. I'm an optimist. But of course, those who like using their personal cars, they think it is stupid not to use a personal car in the city. Thank you, Alexander. Melissa, what do you have to share with us? What is the city of the future for you?
To Alexander's point about autonomous driving, so the 100,000 lampposts with camera and surveillance cameras that Singapore is going to install will also pave the way for driverless or autonomous driving. And already we have already mapped out the terrain and prototypes to allow that to happen. But whatever it is, I think everyone has their idea of what a smart city is. But I would think that from a Singapore context, because of the fact that we are just so small, we will learn from every country, including and especially Russia. And it's a continuous learning process for us, so that Singapore can just remain competitive because of our limitations. And we will be as smart as the rest of the world.
Спасибо. Спасибо. Тали, вас я тоже прошу. Давайте пофантазируем.
Tali, what do you have to say? What is a smart city of the future? Well, colleagues said a lot already. So I will speak about the human factor. Each of you know that every city has some platforms, some portals where people share their comments, something that they do not like about the city. They even have hashtag to describe their emotions. And they would discuss it on the internet. To me, a city of the future is a city where people will cease to curse, to use swear words, and to stop criticizing whatever they do not like. I'm sorry for making such a comment, but it is true actually. People are very eager to share something that they do not like. And if people feel less like criticizing something that they do not like, for me, it is the city of the future. I want people to have very few things not to like. I would like to join in to everything that our speakers said, speaking about a city of the future. Because we have so many special cities in Russia. I want these cities in 10-year time, in 15-year time, to be very human-oriented. I want people to want to stay in these cities. There are very few cities that people actually do not want to leave, that they want to stay in. Singapore is a very vivid example for many Russian cities. And it seems like Singapore is a true benchmark. It is something that is very hard to achieve. They are really number one in so many aspects. And I believe it is a nice goal to have in mind. It's all a question of your will and of the way you use your resources. I believe we can achieve the same high bar. So I thank our speakers for sharing their views and their opinions. I would like to thank them for what they do. I'm very happy we had this discussion. I do hope it was interesting and engaging. I thank you all very much. I'm sorry we didn't have enough time for Q&A session. But before that, you know, we had 15 speakers at each session. I thank you all once again very much. Thank you.
Немножко удовольствия получил. Спасибо большое. Форум интересный, полезный. Всем спасибо.